Okay, so we're going to get started, everyone. Hopefully, those of you online can hear me. I'm standing off screen, so I'm just a voice for those of you online. Thank you, Monica, for confirming that. We have one presenter today. So we have one postdoc in the department who is presenting today. So as a result, timing is a little bit loose today, but we may not take our full time. But in any case, I'm really happy to introduce our presenter, Hosa Patrick, who has just joined our department and working with Laurel came in September, I think officially, and is working on sustainability and energy efficiency, and are you talking a little bit about that project today? So has done an impressive amount of work really in the first 2.5 months that you've been with us. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Hosa.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I almost forgot that.
So just for people online, we're just going to be recording the presentation, but we won't be recording the question and answer, just to let you know.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, so the project I'll be discussing today is exploring industrial normativity for energy efficiency, a bottom-top elitist perspective. I think I'm trying to just get myself to order to start. Good afternoon, everyone. And I think as has been raised, my name is Hosa Patrick. So the first thing I want to look at is to discuss the idea of the topic, which is bottom-top elitist perspective to exploring energy normativity for energy efficiency. So when we talk about the bottom, no, I'm not. No, you can change it.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so while she's on this, I can just talk to the slide. So the bottom-up approach in itself, when we talk about policy making and the likes, what we have is that in most cases, the standard is that you have policymakers making rules and laws, policies, and the likes, as related to how events within the society will work, right? And then so what we have is that policymakers make these policies, either country level or at the global level. They make the policy, they make commitments, in this case for climate change, they make commitments for climate change, and we talk about how it's going to be implemented and the likes. And then we have the middle level executors that try to implement this policy as it happens. And this policy are in all cases meant for the masses, right? It's meant for the ordinary people within different sectors, which are the masses. So in this case of this project, we are looking at the industry, right? And within, okay, this is not working. Sorry about that.
Second, I'll go forward.
Okay. Cool. So what we want to look at is within the space of the masses, and in the discourse of elites, the elites concept or elites, the elite theory, there's always within the masses group of people that make decisions for the masses as it stands. So now within that space, you realize that the group of people that make decisions for those masses are in themselves also within the cadre of policymaker at their own level, right? And so basically our interest is to look at these decision makers, which are the elites within each industries. And so I want to look at these elites within the perception of these elites, their perception as relating to the decision that has been made by the policymaker at this level. So basically that's the idea, looking at their decision at this level and how their decision influence the policymaker back to this level. So basically that's what we want to look at. And that's the idea of the bottom-top elitist perspective to the discussing which we want to have. I just wanted to have this clear to understand what we imply when we talk about the bottom-top elitist perspective to the event we want to look at. So like I said, we want to look at energy efficiency. And in the discourse of energy efficiency, it revolves around what Rodenkamp referred to as energy trilemma. And the energy trilemma itself is ensuring energy security and energy saving, improving on internal markets of states, as well as the achievement of environmental sustainability, as well as attaining the Sustainable Development Goal 7, which talks about affordable and clean energy. So basically, this the idea around energy efficiency. Now, in an attempt to achieve energy efficiency itself is an attempt to achieve the same production level while using less energy inputs. In itself is different from energy saving. Energy saving in itself implies the use of, regardless of the output in itself, you just want to reduce energy regardless of the output. But in the sense of energy efficiency, you want to ensure that you maintain the same output with less energy. That's the idea in this case. So the problem itself when we talk about normativity is that first there's a continuous decline in available resources. Globally, there's a continuous decline in global energy resources, and then there's a continuous increase in the demand for these resources. And what that leads to is that there is for us to manage a situation whereby there's continuous increase in demand for energy and the resources itself is not available, there's a need for environmental regulatory laws and targets that are set by different actors within the international system, both global actors as well as national actors. And then even within the national actors, there are regional targets that have been set by different policymakers as it stands. So basically that's the solution to it. But in as much as these solutions are set, the compliance to ensure that the people at the downtrodden, that's the masses as it is, implements these regulations and the targets in which have been set, it's difficult for you to have a situation whereby the compliance is carried out. So basically there's lack of capacity to monitor each of the actors to ensure that they actually work on the targets in which has been set. So basically, the solution to this problem is to come up with out of the box solution that will ensure that there's conformity to these laws, regardless of monitoring mechanisms that is available for it. Because in most cases, people only attend to a particular law if there are monitoring mechanisms. But what we're saying here is that there's insufficiency when it comes to those monitoring mechanisms. So how do we ensure that? Is to ensure that people do these things regardless of the monitoring mechanism that is available. And that is where the discourse around norm creation comes to play. And when we talk about norms, we're talking about rules that are accepted behaviors that has been accepted and considered valid within a particular community. In essence, we talk about doing things in defaults, right? Default behavior in which that occurs naturally within a particular setting. And when we talk about default behavior, if we can make our acts become defaults, then in that sense, we will not be needing monitoring mechanism to ensure that you carry out a particular behavior and action that happens at a default setting. So the question we want to consider in this project basically is to ask ourselves what motivates general norm creation. This default behavior in general, what motivates it? And then specifically within energy efficiency, what motivates decisions around energy efficiency? What motivates those actors, that's the elite within each industry? What motivates the decision they carry, what motivates it, and then why do they carry out those decisions? So basically that's what the work in itself wants to look at. And when you look at the literature, you realize that there is a serious gap within the literature. The blue side of this pie chart that we have here is the literature as relating to climate change. And then you realize that the literature on climate change and efficiency and norm as relating to climate change, energy efficiency and norm as relating to industry seems to be very, very minimal. So this is the figure. You realize that while we have 47,000 plus literature as relating to climate change, we are only having 12 that talks about climate change, that have an intersection between climate change, energy efficiency norms, as well as industry. So that's the gap in itself. And then when we talk about literature on norm in itself, norm formation, climate change and industry, what we also realize from that is the fact that there is about 6,000 work as relating to norm creation. But when it comes to an intersection between norm formation and industry perspective, you realize that you only have 33 literature on this. This is from Scopus, right? So the idea is that discourse from industry elite perspective seems to be relatively low, comparatively low, when you look at the literature. So basically that's the gap in which we tend to feel. We want to look at industry perspective to this discourse. So the aim and method in which has been used for this project is that first there was a survey that was designed on a Likert scale of agree, strongly agree, and then strongly disagree and disagree. And from 437 distributed survey, we had 209 that was attained valid. And the idea of the validity of this is that we tend to take only the respondents that fill the entire question to the end of it. So there are cases whereby you have some respondents that fill probably to a particular number of questions and then stop, right? So that was not seen as valid in itself. And then there was also a semi-structured interview that was conducted among 37 interviewees on a 2-layer sampling. First, it was a convenience sampling, whereby the conversation, the interview was, the target respondents were people that were available to be interviewed. And then there was snowballing from that ground, which was the second layer sampling, whereby those that were interviewed also raised up or referred us to people that can also be interviewed. So basically that's the two data in which we have. So basically this was the level in which I joined the project after this has been collected. And the idea of what we want to do going forward is to look at, the aim is to explore perception of various stakeholders as it is on first, their rationale for action towards energy efficiency, behavior, and then how information and education can help improve both individual and collective action towards creating norm. So for this data, the idea is to do a triangulation whereby we use both the survey as well as the survey data as well as the interview data. and then triangulate that with secondary source to come up with what we need to do. So on the survey demographics itself, like it was from 2 countries, the United Kingdom and Canada. The idea of United Kingdom and Canada is because these countries are energy efficient conscious country in the sense that they have projects within global targets and as well as national targets to try and achieve certain level when it comes to energy efficiency. And then when it comes to the industry configuration, we looked at hospitality industry, which is accommodation and food services. We look at construction and then utility industry. And then when it comes to the respondents themselves, you realize that most of the respondents, a large chunk of the respondents, which is 59.1% of the respondents, were managers of various companies in which they were. And then we have chief executive officers and then financial officers that were interviewed in the sense, and then as well as sustainability officers that were interviewed. Like I said, the essence is to talk with the elites within the industry. And these elites within the industry these industries are the ones that the policies that are made by policymakers at the national and global level affects these people. So, what I've done with what we have done with the paper so far, with the data so far, is the first paper in which we have come up. We're probably at 80% of work on it. For me, I would say 100, but consider the fact that I have to arrange with the power that be, quote and unquote. It's still within 80% completion as it is, and we're just fine tuning it now for submission to send it out for publication. Is to look at industrial behavioral motivation for energy efficiency normativity. So the first hypothesis here is to understand the underlying motivations, factors and rationale for actions, as well as the makers for organizational action, the markers for organizational action, right? The idea is that the first hypothesis, we say understanding the underlying motivation as well as markers for organizational action is crucial in determining energy efficiency normativity. That's the first hypothesis. And then the second is to say that motivation for energy efficiency is influenced by both individual and collective expectation. These are the hypotheses in which we try to work on in this paper. And there are different forms of behavioral normativity. It can be descriptive as well as injunctive. So the first is that when we look at the descriptive independent behavior of actors within as relating to energy efficiency, the first motivation for action can either be that action is seen as customary. The action is seen as pragmatic in the sense that there is no determination of morality in it. It is seen as a cost-benefit decision that is carried out in the sense of the action in which this industry come up with. So that's the first, which we feel this is descriptive and independent behavior in which actors carry out, and it is judged on the case of a cost-benefit decision. Another action in which another category of behavior which is better at both descriptive the interdependence behavior is that actions are influenced by descriptive norms, in the sense that the result of an action is as a result of the empirical expectation of other people acting in the same rights, right? So a particular action is carried out, or the decision of a particular action is dependent on other actors carrying out the same act. So that is seen as descriptive interdependence behavior. And then another form of behavior is what's referred to as injunctive independent behavior. There is where morality comes to play. And the whole discourse around carrying out a particular action for future generations, you want to do good for the environment and the likes, is from this idea of injunctive independent behavior, whereby it's based on morality, moral normativity. And then the last one which is injunctive interdependent behavior, is now also as a result of orders, whereby it's seen as social norms, whereby action is based on the fact that everybody within that particular society is expected to carry out that particular action. So basically, this is the four behavior that the formation of behavior as it is, that we suppose actors within the industry will carry out. So we want to use this framework. So what we have done in this paper is to use this framework to assess the data in which we have, either to validate or to debunk these different behaviors in which we have. So what we did here is to also arrange it thematically to look at behaviors that are descriptive and interdependent, and behaviors that are descriptive and independent. The same also for the injunctive behaviors, to see how this plays within the industry itself. And then what we have noticed summarily from the data is that there's a discourse as relating to the fact that the decisions are carried out with the idea of increasing profits, right? And we have a 3% of the respondents that somewhat agree to the fact that profits is fundamental in the decision in which they carry out within their organization. And then when it comes to stakeholder satisfaction, we also see that a larger percent of it, about 60% of the respondents, somewhat agree to the fact that stakeholders come to play when they make decisions as relating to what the industry is supposed to carry out. And then we also see to the fact that avoiding negative consequences. So about 53.6, a large chunk of the respondents agreeing to the fact that the avoidance of negative consequence comes to play. And in this place, negative consequences as relating to the laws that are available, as well as the backlash, negative backlash, maybe media backlash that comes from carrying out a particular action. If you are the only one carrying out particular action, while the rest of the industry actors are not, then that becomes a challenge within the system. So for that reason, they tend to carry out this influence the decision in which they carried. And then the internal corporate culture of the industry also saw 28%, which is quite low, as neither agreeing or disagreeing to whether that influenced the decision in which they carry. So it's continue on that ground. I will not bore you with some of this, most of this. So basically, that's what we saw as some of the. These are just deduced from the data in itself, different aspects. But one thing I want to bring bring to your attention is the discourse on action. If it is the action of actors, if it is influenced by legal requirements or it is a moral act. We saw the fact that 82% agree to the fact that it is the actions we carry out, in as much as it's not legally required, they still carried out all the same. And this is interesting in the sense that we want to look at how this relates to the discourse or the position in which most of these actors have as relating to profits being an important indices in the decision in which they carry. So basically that's on the first paper. And then another thing which we note, which is fundamental in this paper, is the fact that those people that are within the space of agree or neither agreeing or disagreeing, the deduction we're having that with that is that there's a likelihood that it's as a result of trying to be politically correct. The response in which they gave were in a bid to be politically correct, because if a large chunk of them have already stated that interest, profit is fundamental in their decision making. And then when it comes to moral obligation, that also is also coming out as a point to consider. So basically, that's the point in which we stood here. So basically, that's that on that paper. And the second paper is on norm life cycle. We want to understand there are different school of thoughts, or better still, different authors that have discussed norms life cycle and given different categories to the formation of norm. That's before a behavior becomes a default act within the society, there are different stages in which that particular behavior will go by, right? So first, there has to be the emergence of that particular behavior in itself, right? Before it becomes accepted. And then there are people that preach that behavior that are referred to as norm entrepreneurs. They tend to encourage others as it is to behavior, give the reasons why the society should work on that ground. And then after that, we have a situation whereby there is a socialization of that particular behavior or that particular action as it is, which is the norm. And then in the socialization of that behavior, that's the transfer from one person to the other and from one generation to the other. And then after that, once the whole society itself are familiar with that particular action and have accepted that action as given, what you have is the internalization of that action where it becomes an everyday practice. Basically, when it comes to energy efficiency, what we want to have is that at the end of the day, it moves to the space of internalization where it becomes an everyday practice. And the idea is that because it's a cycle, over time, people will gradually probably forget about that particular norm, and then there's a new norm again that supersedes that as it is. But in this paper, we are interested in the middle lane, this place of where Frank Moore and Sekel refer to as cascade, and this side of spreading, enforcement, transmission, recognition. That space of the socialization of norm. What happens at that space? That is what this paper is very much interested in. So, like I said, in the second paper, we want to focus on the different stakeholder perspective as relating to how education and information influence the creation of norm. That's what the first paper is looking at. And then the possibly third paper, we'll be looking at how the carrot and stick dynamics, how it's placed within the formation of norm within the industry. So basically, that's that on the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have time for questions. Anyone has a question? Maybe I'll start off the